All right, so get this. Today, we are diving into like the core of why some countries are just, well, richer than others.
Yeah, and it's not just about what we usually hear, right? Like, oh, they have more oil, or their factories are newer, or something.
But we're going deeper.
Way deeper. This is about the rules of the game, but like the rules nobody actually wrote down,
Oh, okay. Now that's interesting. So who figured this out?
So the 2024 Nobel Prize in Economics, it went to these three guys, Daron Acemoglu, Simon Johnson, and James A. Robinson.
Okay. Impressive, but what'd they actually discover?
They kind of blew up this idea that like a country's destiny is all about what's happening right now, like current policies or whatever. They're like, nope, it's all about institutions. But not just laws on paper, but like the whole vibe of how a society works,
Institutions. Oh, okay. That's a new one. Give me an example. Like, how does that actually play out in the real world?
Okay, so picture this. You've got two countries, right? Both sitting on piles of diamonds or something, super valuable. In one, if you find a diamond, it's yours. The government, your neighbor, nobody can just take it from you. Solid property rights.
Makes sense.
But in the other country, it's like total free-for-all. Find a diamond. Someone with more power, they can just roll up and snatch it. No security, no trust.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to invest there, that's for sure.
Exactly. That feeling of security, it lets people take risks, build businesses. The whole economy can actually grow.
Okay, so where do these institutions come from? Why do some countries have them, others don't? This is where it gets juicy, right?
Oh, big time. Acemoglu, Johnson, Robinson, they're arguing that a huge chunk of this comes from colonialism. But get this. They found what they call a reversal of fortune.
Reversal? Now that's intriguing. Tell me more.
They looked at which places were doing really well, like before Europeans showed up, And guess what? Those places, often way poorer today.
Wait, what? I always thought, like, the rich countries now, they've always been at the top.
Nope. The key was the type E of colonialism that went down. Take Africa, for example. Europeans, they went there and, well, lots of them died.
Diseases and all that, right?
Exactly. So they weren't thinking, oh, let's build a nice society for the long haul. It was more like, grab what we can while we can.
Brutal.
It's what they call extractive institutions. Take King Leopold and the Congo. Dude was ruthless, just wanted that rubber and ivory. Consequences be damned. Pure extraction.
Makes sense why those places stayed poor. But what about where Europeans actually stuck around?
Well, that's your North Americas, Australia, places like that. Europeans could actually survive the climate, so they settled down.
So they had to think long term.
Right. They set up more inclusive institutions, property rights, chances for more people to get ahead, the whole shebang. And guess what? Over time, huge difference in how their economies turned out.
So the places that were already wealthy got the short end of the stick because of how they were colonized. That's kind of mind-blowing. But wouldn't things have changed after these countries got their independence? It's not like we're living in the 1700s anymore.
And that is the really crazy part. See, their research shows that these institutions, once they're in place, they're like really hard to get rid of. Even after independence, they're still shaping things, even centuries later. It's wild.
Whoa. So even if you escape colonialism, the system is still there, like a ghost in the machine.
Spot on, like a ghost in the machine. But how did they actually prove this, right? I mean, history is messy. How can you be sure it's the institutions, not something else? So they use this really clever trick, like a natural experiment, they call it, instead of trying to control for, like, everything that happened in history.
Yeah, good luck with that, right?
Seriously. So they focused on settler mortality rates. Basically, how many Europeans died in these different colonies?
Okay, I'm following. But how does, like, dying connect to all this institution stuff?
Well, think about it. The places where Europeans were dropping like flies, places like Africa, those are the places where they were least likely to build anything lasting. Why bother if you're not going to be around to see it?
Growl me. What practical.
Right. So to prove this, they made a graph, right? One side, you've got how many settlers died back in the day. The other side, that country's GDP per capita today.
Which is basically
how much each person in that country produces on average. A good measure of how well the economy's doing.
Right. Okay, so what the graph show?
Strong negative relationship. Higher death rates back then. Lower GDP per capita today. It's like the ghost of colonialism. Still hanging around.
Wow, that's kind of creepy, but it makes you think. And this isn't just about the past, right? You're saying these institutions, they're still screwing things up.
Exactly. See, once you get those extractive institutions in place, they're hard to shake. They discourage investment. People don't trust each other. Nobody wants to rock the boat. It's a vicious cycle.
So it's not just bad luck, it's these patterns repeating themselves over and over.
It's like trying to escape your own shadow. But don't get too bummed out. Their research also shows that change is possible.
Okay, good. I was going to say, it can't all be doom and gloom. So if these institutions are so bad, why don't those in charge just, change them? Wouldn't everybody be better off in the long run?
Now you've hit on what they call the commitment problem. See, even if they know things could be better, elites, those in power, they're often terrified of change, especially big change.
Because they might lose everything.
Exactly. Power, wealth, status, maybe even their heads. It's a gamble, and they've got a lot to lose.
Yeah, I guess when you're at the top, any change feels like going down. So how do we break out of this?
Well, the laureates looked at a bunch of examples, like democratization, for example, going from a king or dictator to, people voting, having a say.
Sounds like a good thing, right?
In theory, yeah. But for the guys in charge, it's scary. They don't know what'll happen if they give up control. Will they be punished for past stuff? Will everything fall apart? It's a tough sell.
So it's not just about economics. It's about human nature, too. Greed, fear, the whole shebang.
Totally. And to make things even more complicated, there's this thing called the political replacement effect.
All right, lay it on me. What's that?
It's basically like this. Even when elites seem to lose power, like after a revolution or something, they often find sneaky ways to hang on to the real control.
Like a shadow government?
Kind of. Like, imagine a puppet show, right? The puppets change, but the same hand is still moving them behind the scenes. It's all about controlling the economic levers, the real source of power.
Can you give me an example of this puppet show in action?
Oh, sure. Look at the American South after the Civil War. Slavery is abolished, right? Big change. But did the old Southern elites just disappear? Nope.
They found new ways to hold on to power.
Exactly. Sharecropping, keeping black farmers in debt, all sorts of messed up stuff. The system changed on paper, but the reality, for many people, stayed the same.
Man, that's depressing. So we've got colonialism, we've got elites clinging to power. Is there any way hope? Did these laureates find anything positive?
They did. They actually looked into artificial intelligence, or AI, and its impact on inequality.
Ooh, that's a hot topic. Everyone's talking about AI these days.
Rightfully so. And what they found is both exciting and a little scary. See, AI, it has the potential to boost productivity like crazy.
So we could all be working less and having more. Sign me up.
That'd be nice. But here's the catch. It could also make inequality even worse, at least in the short term.
Wait, how does that work? I thought AI was supposed to make things better for everyone.
It's not that simple. See, the first wave of AI, it's going to automate a lot of jobs, especially those repetitive, kind of boring ones.
It's like factory workers, truck drivers, that sort of thing?
Exactly. And those folks, they're going to need new jobs, right? But what if those jobs don't exist or they pay way less? That's where the inequality comes in.
So we're not all going to be living in some sci-fi utopia where robots do all the work.
Not necessarily. It's not just about individual jobs disappearing either. There are ripple effects.
Ripple effects. Okay, now you're losing me.
Imagine a stone, right? You throw it in a pond.
You get ripples.
Exactly. So imagine AI automates a bunch of factories. Great for the factory owners, right? But what about the workers? They lose their jobs, have less money to spend, maybe they have to move, find new work.
And that affects other businesses, other people, the whole economy.
Bingo. It's like a chain reaction, and it's hard to predict exactly how it'll play out. So what do? Do we just surrender to the robots? Or is there a way to make this whole AI thing work for everyone?
So what do? Do we just surrender to the robots, or is there a way to make this whole AI thing work for everyone?
Look, nobody's saying we're about to become slaves to robots or anything. Economics, it's messy, it's not like a simple answer, but these Nobel guys, they gave us some tools to think about all this,
Okay, so no easy answers, got it.
Yeah.
But what can we actually do with these tools? What are they, even?
Well, remember how we've been talking about institutions this whole time? Those are key. If we want everyone to benefit from, AI and all that, we got to build the right systems around it. Education, safety nets, making sure the robots aren't just controlled by, 5 rich dudes,
So we have to be proactive. We can't just let things happen and hope for the best.
Exactly. And this whole commitment problem we talked about, that means people in charge, they might resist even good changes. Got to be smart about that, figure out how to make it work for everybody.
It's going to take smarts, ain't guts, sounds like.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible, right? We can use AI for good, make sure everyone benefits.
Exactly. It's about harnessing the power of this tech, not letting it run wild and make the rich richer,
This has been a wild ride. From colonialism to AI, who knew institutions were the common thread. Any last words of wisdom before we wrap things up?
If you remember just one thing today, it should be this. Institutions, they matter. Like, really matter. Not just for some history book, but for your life right now. They shape everything.
It's like we're all living in the shadow of decisions made centuries ago.
And the cool part is we can make those decisions for the future, right? That's what's so hopeful about all this.
Knowing the patterns, it helps us make better choices today. That's what gives me hope, at least.
Me too. But here's one last thing to think about. If institutions are this important, then changing them, fighting for good ones, that's not just like some abstract political thing. It's how we build a better world. Think about that.
Now that's the thought to end on. Thank you so much for this deep dive. It's been amazing. And to everyone listening, keep learning, keep asking questions, and let's build a future where everyone has a chance to thrive.